Welcome to Attic Raiders Retro Reviews, where today we're going into the swamps and braving the slime in Waddingtons' Gunge Game. Now, this is the point where I normally pick up the game board and show you the lovely artwork on there. Sadly, this is what I've got. Now, while the artwork is lovely, it's definitely not a game box. Some sadistic monster has photocopied the rules, glued the rules onto the back of the box cover and cut it out. And they've not even cut it out well. Look, they've taken the G off of Gunge and the top off of Waddingtons, and this poor guy has got half of his face missing. I really hate that somebody's done this to this lovely artwork. The Gunge Game has got one of the nicest painted covers on it I've ever come across. But this is all I've got left of this. I could have bought the full game, I suppose, with the box, but I'm a rather cheap, stingy person, and I will always go for the cheapest option. I got this because it was being sold as spares. Now, here is a tip for you. If you're on eBay and you're looking for a game, try looking for spares if you are looking for cheap games. A couple of games I've got now have been listed as spares, but actually have been pretty much the full game and have only been missing one or two items, and I've got it for an absolute fraction of the price that a complete game goes for. And I've also been able to complete them by picking up other bits from eBay in order to get the full set. This one is quite a rare game. It's not one that you find spares of very often, but this one, I got this and it had the entire game. Everything is there except for the box, and it is a real shame because the box is absolutely gorgeous. You can see the colours on the box. It's just so colourful, and these little guys on here are so playful looking. The Gunge Gang, who are nearly nice, almost awful, and they're having a great old time in that gunge and in that slime. This game, Waddingtons is one of the king of retro board games. As far as vintage goes, Waddingtons can really pretty much do no wrong. There's very few Waddingtons games which are not good. They did some absolutely great stuff with 3D games and really novel game mechanisms and mechanics. It's just really, really nice. If you can find Waddington stuff, they are usually great. And this game from 1988 is when Gunge was king. Now in America, obviously you have Nickelodeon, and Nickelodeon featured a lot of game shows which had Gunge in them, particularly Double Dare. But here in the UK, we also had quite a lot of Gunge in our games. We only had BBC One and ITV really, which were the only ones which featured Gunge games, but there was quite a lot. Motormouth, which came out in 1988 on ITV, that had Gunge games. Funhouse, which started in 1989 on ITV, that had Gunge. There was a kids' sketch show called Your Mother Wouldn't Like It, which started in 1985 on ITV, and that featured Gunge. The Generation Game with Bruce Forsyth, which came out on BBC One in 1971, when that got into the 80s, it featured Gunge. And, not to be outdone, BBC One's Going Live, which came out in 1987, also featured its own Double Dare segment. You guessed it, with Gunge. So it's only right and fitting that there was a Gunge board game that came out at the end of the 80s. And this is a great little game. But it's missing one rather important, vital ingredient. Come on to that at the end. The game board itself, as far as colour goes, is absolutely amazing. I mean, look at this thing. It is like some kind of psychedelic acid trip vomit. It's just got colours everywhere. We've got reds and oranges and yellows and purples and blues and yellows. It's just everything. It's a veritable rainbow, this swamp, as well as this really cruddy brown and the green gunge itself. I just absolutely love this. It is so bright. We've got our home corners for our Gunge Gang here. So we've got the yellow corner here for the Sticky Ickies, the red corner for the Scum-Bags, the blue corner for the Cruds, and the green corner for the Yucks. The path that they will then be taking is these rocks, which are in the Gunge Swamp, going all around here, and right in the middle we've got the actual Gunge. Now this will actually work as a kind of shortcut that you can take if you've got the correct card. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Of course, what really makes this game is the playing pieces, the Gunge Gang. These guys are absolutely fantastic and are what really, really sells this game. The Gunge Gang characters can be found all around the house in all kinds of mess. They are invisible to the human eye, and it's only when they're washed down the plug hole into the drains that they truly become the Gunge Gang and play the famous head-jumping game in the Gunge Swamps. Although they like to think they're tough and monstrous and have a motto of naughty, nasty and never nice, they're really just daft and couldn't be nasty or naughty even though they try. But they do like to play tricks on one another. All of them are quite large and quite chunky, and they're made of this kind of flexible rubber material. And of course, because of their size and the fantastic designs on these guys, these would be used by kids as toys a lot, taken out of the game maybe discarded or not played as much as it should be, and these would just be mixed in with other toys and used. And so because of that, it can be really quite difficult to get this game with all of the Gunge Gang figures in it, because these guys normally have been taken out, played with and lost, so it can be quite difficult to find a complete set. These yellow guys here are Sticky Ickies, and they kind of look like anthropomorphized turds, to be perfectly honest. With this big kind of Mr. Whippy curly bit, it looks like this has been a poo that has been curled out. So yeah, but these are Sticky Ickies. They're found in sticky bits of things like glue blobs, plasticine and unwashed paintbrushes. Sticky Ickies always take their revenge on Scum-Bags. So these guys are the mortal enemies of the red ones. The red guys, these are the Scum-Bags. This kind of looks like a, I don't know, it's like the Man in the Moon, Crescent Moon. Also reminds me quite a bit of the Joker from Batman, with his long curved nose and his hooked chin here. Could also say that this is quite reminiscent of Mr. Punch from the old Punch and Judy puppet shows here in Britain. And the Scum-Bags, they are found in hot, dirty places, especially in tide marks around the bath and kitchen sink. Scum-Bags like nothing better than throwing Sticky Ickies into the Gunge Swamps. Then we get onto the blue and the green. Now together these guys remind me of characters from a TV series from 1994 called Bump in the Night. This guy, the Yuck, looks a lot like Mr. Bumpy, who was a kind of small monster who lived under the bed and used to eat socks. This guy, he's a Yuck, and these are found in sauce bottle tops and down the sides of mustard jars, marmalade and jam. In fact, any place around food that's messy. Yucks are always being attacked by Cruds and blindfolded so that they bump into things, which is why all Yucks' eyes stick out so much. So the green ones are not very friendly with the blue ones. But as I said, in Bump in the Night, Mr. Bumpy, who this one looks like, is really good friends with a character called Squishington. And Squishington is a little blue guy who lives in the toilet, and that's what these Cruds remind me of. These guys, the Cruds, are supposed to be found in cold places like blocked up ice boxes and undefrosted refrigerators. Cruds are always mean and horrid to all Yucks, so these guys are always fighting with the green ones. They've really kind of gone all out with the background stories on these, and making sure that these are all kind of like characters and tribes in themselves. It really kind of adds to the game and takes us on to the next level. At its heart, the Gunge Game is a simple roll and move elimination game. Players start with their coloured pieces in one of the corners. You then roll the dice and you have to move around the board and try and land on the head of one of the other players. If you do that, they are out. The last person standing with all of their pieces is the winner. Now, when you roll, you can move either clockwise or anti-clockwise, the number of times shown on the dice. The only thing is that you can't retrace your steps. So if I've got a 5, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What I can't do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can't go back on myself. I can have as many playing pieces in play as I want, so I can either keep these guys safe at home because nobody can get them when they're on their home space. So I could keep them safe and only have one guy out moving around the board, or on my next go I could then start moving somebody else. Depends what you want to do. These guys are safe when they're at home, but the more playing pieces you have available on the board, the more options you then have for what you can do with your pieces. When you're moving, there's a 6 for yellow. I can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there, and he would be out. I have stomped on his head, he's out of the game and has been eliminated. So that was a really good move there. Continuing, if I've got a 5, what I can also do though is I can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these spaces, if you don't land exactly on a character, you have to ignore the space that they're on and jump over them. So the space that they're on does not count as part of the count for that roll. So 5 would take me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to here, rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to here. So I would be over there. So there is quite a lot of luck element with the roll of the dice as to whether you manage to land on top of somebody. But again, you've got a bit of choice here. You can move either left or you can move right. So gives you some variance. But this is where the game then gets more interesting. We have an option with cards. And what happens with the cards is at the start of the game, every player is dealt 2 cards. So we shuffle these up, everybody gets 2 cards each, and the rest of them go into a pile. Now, with these 2 cards, you are always going to have 2 cards. You can have a look at them and see what you've got, and you can keep these secret, but you can play these at any time during the game. And once you've played a card, you then put it to the bottom of the pile and you take another one, so you've always got 2 cards in your hand. Now, let's take a look at what these cards actually do. In the deck of cards, there are 3 different types of cards available. There's Run For It, Double, or Gunge. So, Run For It. If you use this card, it means that you can take your playing piece wherever he is on the board and move him directly back to your home corner. If you do that, that person is then safe and nobody can jump on their head. So you might want to do that if you're feeling that you're a bit cornered and that you think that somebody is going to end up getting you. Personally, I don't like this card because of the circular nature of the game board. I find that you're pretty much going to be cornered or potentially gotten by somebody else wherever you are on the board. So I don't really find much use for this. So whenever this card, I get this in my hand, I kind of play this straight away just to get rid of it so that I can then take another card and hope to get a double or a gunge card, because those are much more useful, I feel anyway. The double card, this means that you can double whatever the roll on the dice is. So if you roll a 5, instead of moving 5 spaces, you can move 10. So you can move either 5 or 10 if you have this card in your hand. So that gives you more options, and it means that there's a lot more strategies that you have got to think through of ways you can move your piece on the board. The other one is Gunge. Now I find that this is the best card to have. So what I will always do when I am playing is I will try to get rid of run for it cards as soon as I get them, and always try to have a double card and a Gunge card in my hand, because that gives me the most options. With the Gunge card, it means that we can move through the Gunge in the centre of the board and come out at any other stone. So it's kind of like doing a sneak attack, and it means that the person that you're going after might be on the complete opposite side of the board, but by going through the Gunge, you're taking that shortcut and you can get to them really quickly, you can land on their head and you can eliminate them. So you can see it's a really great game with lots of options available to you. It's a 2 to 4 player game, but I find that if you're doing it with 2 players, it's best that each player controls 6 characters rather than just the one single colour of 3 characters. That way you can have far more pieces on the board moving around. It gives you lots more options, and you've got lots more things that you can do with them in order to get each other out. Now, I mentioned that there was one thing missing. I think by now you've probably guessed what that is. The game is called the Gunge Game. It's all about monsters in the swamp moving through Gunge. Something's missing here, guys. Come on, Waddington. Where is the Gunge? How can you have a board game called the Gunge Game with no Gunge in it? I don't think it would have been very difficult for them to have a vac-formed tray so that you had like a little pool that you could put slime in the middle of the game. Simple. And then the characters actually would go through actual real Gunge. That would have made it nice. Come on, guys. Step up your game, Waddingtons. I'm used to Waddington's games having really great stuff, but come on, it's an absolute no-brainer. The Gunge Game, put Gunge in it. But if you can get over that, it's a great game. It's not one that's very common. Generally, if it's a boxed one, you're looking at around about £20 just for the game. As I said, I got this sadly missing most of the box, so I got this really cheap. I think I only paid about £5 for this, but it is playable with all the pieces, and I really love it. I love it so much that if I can, I'm going to get another copy which has a box, just because I want that box art and I want it to be absolutely complete. But for just now, I've got a really good playable copy with all the pieces in it. This is definitely one that I recommend. Until next time, this is Attic Raiders Retro Reviews.
I want to play again. Let's play again.